Hello everyone, this is Lana with you. Today the topic of our meeting concerns both video and photography. What are they changing in the industry and how am I responding to it? I'd like to say that artificial intelligence is already here. It shoots, edits, and writes scripts. Visuals that used to take weeks to create now appear in minutes. And this is no longer science fiction. This is the reality of the current month in 2025. And this is not just a trend, it's a tectonic shift. A prompt has already become more than just a movie camera. It's a new style that brings its own flavor and its own vocabulary. Regarding generative algorithms and fully fledged production tools, what is it that professionals need to do now? Because many people are now asking themselves what to do now that prompts and neural networks have appeared and how to adapt all of this to real-world activity. Today I have selected several articles about what can be done, how the market is responding, and how all of this can be adapted to your own work, and then you can decide for yourself whether it's worth doing this now or not. But there are some very interesting facts that are now driving us and the market forward, and it's important to understand that video production will no longer be the same as before. That's why we need to adapt to artificial intelligence, to these neural networks, and start implementing them into our own tasks. So what is changing? Now filming is becoming optional. That is, Midjourney, Runway, and Firefly create visuals without physical lighting, cameras, or models. Cameramen are now losing their exclusive access to imagery. For example, let's take an article about how Runway announced that its latest AI-based video model can actually generate coherent scenes and people. I'll leave links to these articles which I selected for today's broadcast below this video stream so you can see for yourself how much the trends have changed. And that same Runway, which now allows you to generate cinematic scenes, you really can upload a single photo and show scenes from different angles. And at the same time, your subject doesn't change visually, because many people now have the problem of how to keep the subject identical in every scene when you have one character, but with each generation, the face, the hair, or something else changes. So now in Runway, you have the ability to create identical scenes with a single subject, using different lighting setups, different backgrounds, and you can also influence their actions. That's why I recommend reading this article, and I also suggest visiting Runway itself to test out this generation feature. So what does Runway itself claim as a startup? In its new Gen 4 model, you can generate a sequence of scenes and people across multiple frames, according to the announcement. That is, AI-generated videos can have difficulty maintaining a consistent narrative, but Runway claims that the new Gen 4 model should give users more continuity and control when telling a story. That is, now every day when you test the neural network, you can see how the approach to scene generation is changing. And this has already been tested so thoroughly. For example, if at the end of April I went in and tested scene generation Gen 3 was still available the next day, already in May, I started using Gen 4 and I was surprised at how much the physics had adapted to the movement in each scene, meaning how high quality the video content had already become. The link will be below the broadcast. What else is changing in AI video production? As I mentioned, operators are losing their exclusive access to imagery. Another interesting fact I discovered is that you can explore new generative AI features in Adobe Creative Cloud. That is, In the same Adapt Firefly, you can use artificial intelligence to generate an image or video, and with Firefly, it will receive C2PA protection. This means your content will be approved, it will be protected, and you will always be able to track the ownership of this content as its creator. This is a very important point. Editing is starting to become automated. Runway and the script can already assemble videos to music. Rhythm, style. All that's left for a person to do is edit and approve. Copywriting and scripts are no longer the domain of humans alone. ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude can write script-7 emotional scenes. The role of the author is shifting. You no longer write, but rather edit, direct, and curate. Now let's ask ourselves, what can't artificial intelligence replace? Here's a very important point. It can't replace intonation, impulse, or strategy. An AI doesn't sense the atmosphere, doesn't grasp the meaning of the context. If we don't provide that context, it simply won't understand it. No. Likewise, many frames lack a soul. That is, even a perfect synthetic visual can feel empty if it lacks intention, rhythm, and breath. The architect of meaning is a new role. In other words, a person becomes not just an executor, but a conduit for meaning. This isn't an operator, it's a media strategist, a director of metaphors, a designer of meaning. Here's a very interesting point that I discovered. In the US, a film was made entirely with the help of artificial intelligence, and its cast fully complies with the standards of the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA. These are 3 facts you need to know about Echo Hunter. How did they make this film? Echo Hunter is a new, fully AI-created science fiction short film made using Arcana AI. The cast included actors such as Breckin Meyer. In this short film, there is a memorable moment when a clone hunter begins to question his place in a morally bankrupt world where the line between human and machine is blurred. And there are some very interesting points here. In order to create this film, it was necessary to adapt the requirements of cinematography to SAG-AFTRA. What is SAG-AFTRA? It stands for the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. In other words, it is the largest union protecting the interests of professional actors, announcers, stunt performers, models, and hosts in the United States. And how can this possibly be connected to artificial intelligence? Since 2023-2024, SAG-AFTRA has been actively regulating the use of digital doubles, synthesized voices, deepfakes, motion capture, and AI-generated performances. This concerns the generation of an actor's appearance and movements based on 3D scans or video. Next, the use of AI voiceovers with a real person's voice. This concerns the complete creation of a virtual actor. For example, metahumans, Synthesia, and others have been used here. But what does it mean to comply with SAG-AFTRA standards? Right now, we're talking about content created by artificial intelligence meeting the requirements of the US Union. Exactly, and here they pay special attention to the rights to one's image and voice. That is, the actor gives separate written consent for the use of their appearance, voice, movements, and, well, in these same AI-generated scenes. Using an AI character without consent is considered a violation. If we look at what's happening online right now, many creators are using the likenesses of famous movie stars without their consent to make video clips, create photos, and produce all sorts of different scenes. So while this is not regulated yet in the Soviet or post-Soviet space, in Europe it is strictly punishable. And in the US, it is also strictly punishable. That's why I think that soon a special application will be created to track such creators and prevent them from accessing the online space. So artificial intelligence has its own nuances. Now, regarding payment, if digital doubles or AI copies are used, actors are paid as for a regular shoot or according to a special AI rate. And there are contracts where royalties are paid even for the repeated use of a digital likeness. If you, as creators, make images featuring your movie stars, especially American ones, then in fact those stars should receive royalties or payment from the content you create. Just like when you upload music, every time you listen, each singer, each performer receives royalties. So you need to understand that unrestricted use of everything will eventually be limited. Stars will demand that they be paid certain compensation for the use of their likenesses. Compensation, yes. Why am I putting so much emphasis on this SAG-AFTRA today? This is a very interesting point because right now I'm trying to establish a framework for protected AI video content. And the fact is that many people are just using neural networks that only grant the right to publish on social media, but not to sell the created content. I think we will gradually delve deeper into this issue. Because if you look at the American market, we need to comply with SAG-AFTRA requirements. Time restrictions and licensing are also changing. The duration for using a digital likeness is either limited or strictly specified. So if we use content created, well, like a deep fake with celebrities using their likeness, then according to US regulations, it's allowed for about 12 months for non-exclusive use in online content. That is, I think only a few will be able to use it exclusively. This will be some large corporations that have long-term partnerships with these celebrities. Artificial intelligence is also a production tool and it is not an actor, so you cannot replace a live actor without their consent and compensation. Also, artificial models and models created without an actor, for example, on Midjourney, Runway, or 11 Labs, must be clearly labeled. That is, all content that you create using neural networks and publish on social networks like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the others must be flagged as created with artificial intelligence. This is the main requirement right now in social networks and in the post-media media space, because you must not violate the likeness of real people without their permission. An example of wording in contracts. Well, basically, starting in July, I'll be preparing a new edition regarding copyright, and we'll add an example of contract wording about this SAG-AFTRA there. And the technologies that support compliance are C2PA, which is about confirming authenticity and consent. Next, metadata tracking, which is the storage of the image generation history and the rights to it. Contracts with SAG-AFTRA, APIs and integrations are still in development as of 2024. Now, the next section of our broadcast is about how I respond to changes. To say that I'm fighting against artificial intelligence would be incorrect. I'm looking for new forms of co-authorship. My approach is not automation for the sake of saving time, but for the sake of realizing an idea. In other words, what we are working on now is an automated system for creating content from idea to publication. And here, there are many factors that we are carefully studying and trying to implement. Of course, this will not be a simple process. It will be a lengthy one. But since the trend of development in video production is only growing, we are moving in the right direction. How do I respond to changes? Generation based on the task, not by template. That is, photos are created according to the mood, video according to the brand strategy, voiceover, style, editing all within a unified logic. What is my role in all of this? Well, I don't do the hands-on work. I create the architecture of the processes. Then I design each step. Who does what when artificial intelligence gets involved, where the human remains involved. For example, we recently created an AI music video called Mars with singing bananas, entirely assembled from synthetic scenes with a live conceptual framework and a structured system of agent interaction. If you ask where the industry is heading right now, the old style of production is dying out. There is budgets, filming, teams, all of that becomes excessive if there is no idea. The future belongs to hybrid formats. In other words, artificial intelligence handles the routine work. The human holds onto the idea, creates differentiation, and manages attention. And here's an interesting article. So in film production using artificial intelligence, a movie was made for $500,000 instead of the $20 million that had been projected. And what was the idea behind this film? And why was the budget so low? So artificial intelligence was implemented in Hollywood film production, opening up innovative possibilities, which also raises serious ethical and professional questions. It was the studio Staircase Studios AI which integrated artificial intelligence technology into its debut film, The Woman with Red Hair, a movie that looks like it cost more than $20 million, but actually cost less than $500,000. Staircase Studios' artificial intelligence then is creating a film on this budget. So what does it involve? In other words, they are using an innovative approach. Staircase Studio AI has patented the AI forward motion workflow. That is, their patented AI workflow becomes the central element of the operation. A technology was developed jointly with the head of the film production department, which optimizes the filmmaking process and allows for the production of high-quality content at a fraction of the traditional cost. Then they collaborate with industry veterans, that is, they bring in experienced professionals and animators who develop the characters. And then all of this is refined using artificial intelligence. They have very big ambitions for the future. In other words, they are demonstrating that it's no longer necessary to create high-budget films, since every film should be tested by the audience. And when it comes time to approach something like the Nobel Prize, well, we're exaggerating here. This is where contentious issues arise with critics and everyone else. That's why with the budgets that used to be allocated for film production, multi-million budgets now, everything will be much cheaper, much higher quality, and much more interesting. Because you may have noticed that films have become monotonous and very boring. But artificial intelligence will bring something new. With the same budgets that were used before, it will now be possible to shoot several projects and not worry about one of them flopping at the box office, because there will be multiple projects and you'll be able to test yourself as a producer and see what the demand is for everything else. And now it's the era of systems, not teams. In other words, it's not agencies, but ecosystems that will be in demand now. In other words, not a studio, but an operating system for visual thinking. That's what we're striving for. I also want to share an interesting article about the launch of VO3. It's a good generator, but also very dangerous. Google is creating convincing fakes about riots, conflicts, and election fraud. This article will be under my broadcast. You can watch excerpts from these video clips. Where is all this leading? Not all producers are conscientious. Not all video creators are honest. Many are trying to create fake scenes to stir up unrest in society. That's why I encourage people on the contrary to support the positive side of video production and content creation on social media to spread more positivity, more positive emotions, and in doing so, lead us toward a brighter future. Because every tool has both a positive and a negative side. If we start to focus on the negative and use it from a negative perspective, it will lead to bigger and bigger problems. Another very interesting point that I liked is that the size of the market for AI-based video editing tools is only continuing to grow. Therefore, the global market for video editing using artificial intelligence is valued at 1.6 billion US dollars, and according to forecasts, will reach $9.3 billion by the end of 2030. The annual growth rate will be 42%. Note that filming on a phone will gradually start to blend with enhancements made by artificial intelligence. Either some effects will be added or certain scenes will be inserted. But the market is only just beginning to gain momentum. So we have about 5 years to get into this stream, make a name for ourselves, and showcase our capabilities. Overall, all of this can be well. If you don't want to create videos or get into video production, that's fine. Just use it on social media, create quality content, and improve your product. I'll say this. Many companies are now transitioning to AR, VR, which is virtual content. And online stores are already implementing virtual try-ons for products, and this trend is only going to grow stronger. Many things will also be experienced virtually. Movies, games, all of that will be in the virtual space as well. So we are moving in the direction we're moving. But it's a very interesting time, so it's worth paying attention to this. And to conclude, I'll say this. Artificial intelligence is not a threat, it's a mirror. What we create is what we get in return. So if there's nothing behind the picture, it's immediately obvious. But if you are a bearer of meaning, a media conduit, you gain a superpower. My answer to the industry is this. It's a systematic approach to production. I'm not competing with artificial intelligence, but I enhance myself through it. And so that every brand, artist, and creator can make videos not out of desperation, but from intention. So if you work with visuals, create brands, or write stories, think about how semantic artificial intelligence can be integrated into your work. And I'll also show how this works from idea to publication in upcoming video episodes, either live or using real case studies. Also, please check out our music video with the banana on Mars. See how you can recreate a music video from start to finish, which used to cost thousands of dollars on a minimal budget, and already start making money from it. A new video about how to make money with neural networks in content creation, I think we'll release at the end of this week.